How's it going? Welcome back. So obviously not in the shed, so sorry if it's a bit echoey. What I want to get done this morning, I can probably do in the house. So I'm in here with the bike and the bits that I need. Saves me having to drag the bikes out of the shed into the rain and be cold. So I'll try and get away with doing what I can in a lap of luxury for a little while. And that is fitting the tyre to the wheel. So I sprayed up the wheel, the sprocket carrier, some of the bits, but the risers as well. Ordered the tyre and got that. So basically, I've just been waiting for probably not long enough, but it's been about 4 or 5 days with all the painted bits in the airing cupboard curing. So hopefully they're in a state where I can maul them around a little bit, and fingers crossed I won't mess up the paintwork. And I'm going to give the old cable tie method a go for putting the tyre on. Again, it's mainly because I just can't be bothered going out into the cold shed and getting the tyre levers and the rim protectors and all that kind of stuff out. I thought, see if I can do it in here, and it's there's possibly a little less chance of me scratching anything whilst I'm doing that. And the main reason for getting all that on is that you probably can't see now, but I have assembled a few bits on the bike just to start to get that idea of the stance. And looking at it, I'll show you in a minute, I'm possibly thinking I am going to be pushing what I'm getting away with that short length of shock. I've got a feeling I'm going to have a bit of a clearance issue. We'll see, not sure yet. If that is the case, it's not a massive issue. I can just switch out and get some different shocks. But we'll see, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I think it's going to be tight though, just eyeballing it. But yeah, let me show you the bike and where we are at, and then we'll have a go at getting this tyre on the wheel. There we go then. So you can see I've got the shocks, swing arm, different tank, more on that in a moment, but I've just kind of thrown it all together just to start to get a little look about how it's going to how it's going to sit, hopefully. So yeah, it is going to be tight, I think. This is a quite a short shock. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if when I get this tyre on, quite how that's going to play out. But I've got it set up now. Let's see if I can just swing this around. I know the light's not great because we're looking straight out the window now. But that's pretty much how I'd like the bike to sit when it's on its wheels and everything. I want to elevate the tank up a tiny bit just to try and mimic this line running straight as well, but we'll get to that. Yeah, so I've just quickly knocked up a little wooden stand to hold it up on. Tank, yeah, so that you'll see is a different tank, still with the Bonneville mounting arrangement there. So my original plan was to use the Bonneville tank which I'd modified for the America, which meant cutting this tab here off, and then I made up a different tab. You'll see that in another video. Obviously at that point I hadn't planned on doing this, so yeah, I got rid of this tab. Now I've also got the black and white with the gold pinstripe Bonneville tank. If you look back in the videos, that was the tank I did the first Bonneville tank on an America video with. Still got that tank, and Jem mentioned, even though that's been modified for an America, Jem mentioned that she really likes that tank and she would swap it for this one. Now I love the tank badges on this one. This was the one off my other Bonnie that she nicked. So this might end up being the tank that goes on if I'm going to have to modify that tank somehow back to an arrangement close to this so it fits on hers. She really wants that tank, and then I'll be left with either modifying or doing a bracket or something with the bare metal tank, which is my original one that I was going to use, which I still might, or this one. Not sure yet, but this one is just on here now, just so she could see what the other one looked like on hers. But there we go. So let's get rocking and rolling with the tyre and see if I can get that on. See if I can get that on, and 2, without damaging any of the paintwork. There we go, fresh out of the airing cupboard, and I'm rather happy with the way the paintwork has turned out on those. That's the sprocket carrier, got the risers and the wheel. So this has all been sort of drying for about 5 days now, maybe 6 days. So yeah, hopefully we should be okay. I did have to wait for a replacement valve stem, which I've popped in. The original one was probably usable. It didn't actually have the the stem on the inside didn't actually have that in there, and I don't know, the thread, it looked a bit damaged on the cap kind of threads, a little bit dented, so I just thought I'm just going to get a shot of that. So I just picked it up, and that was silver, so I picked up a black one anyway. So that's on there now. So ready to give this a go. Let's get the tyre prepared and rock and roll. So I'm just joining, because I haven't got any cable ties long enough to go all the way around. I'm just joining up 2 cable ties, and this method, if you've not seen it before, is just you're just squeezing the tyre together. Show you in there, you can see that. So we're just going to be squeezing the bead, both sides of the bead together, and then obviously where the cable ties join, don't have them there, have them on the outside, so it's not going to get in the way. I've got them all the way around, so I will, you know, try and pull them out, so you might have to go around and just cinch them all up a little bit. That's pretty cool. Now, not essential, but I'm going to cut all these tangs off, mainly because they just annoy me, so I'm going to get rid of them, but you don't need to do that. Excelente. So that is ready to rumble, almost. So a couple of other things as well if you're doing this, just to save yourself any headaches. So you usually got a little marking dot on there, and that should line up with your valve stem. And don't forget to pay attention to your rotation, and make sure you get that on the right way onto your wheel. So for me, disc side is this, yes, this side on a Bonneville. I had to think for a second. Sprocket side's that side. So disc side's that way, which means rotation is going that way. So the tyre is going to want to be, let me just pop this down. The tyre is going to want to be, where was the rotation? That way, so that way round. And our valve stem is there. to make life easier when it goes on. The other thing I'm going to use is some fairy liquid, and just to go around the bead, and hopefully that will help slide things on a little easier. So, what's the camera angle like? Let's come back a bit. Let's get stuck in. Over, and that is that way, rotation like that. Back down. There we go. Get both sides of the bead nicely lubed. Double check rotation. Double check where your valve stem's going to go. Well, that was a little bit of a struggle, not quite as easy as some have gone on, but we got there in the end, and no damage to the rim, so that is, or I should say to the paintwork, so I'm really pleased about that, and it looks, I'm liking the look, so I'm just going to run out to the shed and just put some air in it. I need to pop the beads out so they seat, check it isn't leaking, and check that it's not leaking from the new valve stem I've put in. So I'll be back in a mo. I don't think I'll take you out with that one, you've seen it on other videos, and then we'll get it on the bike and see how much clearance I haven't got. So there we go, in from the shed, fully inflated, no leakage, which is quite nice. And I'm very happy with the way it looks. If you can be happy with the way a tyre looks, it looks nice and tall and tirey. But yeah, that's kind of exactly the look I wanted. So, as I said, let's get it on the bike and see how much, as I said, how much clearance I do not have. So there we go, pretty damn low. Sorry the light's not great in here, I do apologise, but yeah, it's a tough one. I love the way it looks. Let's come in a bit closer. We've got about an inch of clearance underneath there, not much at all. Stuck the bars on as well. I had a little sit just to see what it was like. Those shocks, it's not a hell of a lot of movement in them, and even with my weight on it, it doesn't compress anymore with it down on the ground. I mean, that's resting on the rear wheel now, and it's close. I just don't know if it's too close. But what I think I'm probably going to do is leave it as is. Might even up to the point of when it's, you know, before it's torn down for paint and final stuff, obviously just do a test ride and see if I'm getting any clearance issues before I damage any paint or myself or the bike, more importantly. and yeah, and if needs be, I just get longer shocks and put longer shocks on. But I'm loving the look, which is maybe not to everyone's cup of tea, but it is mine. Let's see, there's so you got this here. I mean, you're going to have the seat over here, so we got a fair bit of distance there. I mean, when I had these shocks on the America, that was the same distance between the mudguard and the tyre when it was just rested, and I never had a problem with it actually touching. So I might, it'd be nice if I'm lucky enough to get away with it, but Christ, that's close. I'm liking the bars. There we are. I've just mocked them up with the old clamp on. Although I am still humming and hawing about the Biltwell Friscoes as well. They might. Let's not get ahead of ourselves yet. Long way to go, and that's just 4 bolts to switch those round. But yeah, right. Let me sit and think on this. Okay, so I'm going to have a little think about the clearance issue on the hoop and tyre, but that is an ongoing sort of, this whole thing is an ongoing tweaking and tinkering. One of the other things I want to have a look at, and I'll probably finish off the video with this, is the fuel tap, the petcock on the bike. The eagle-eyed among you may have seen a little dish I had underneath it when it was all set up. That's because even when this was turned to the off, which is on now, I was still getting a very slight drip from the fuel tap. So it's probably slightly leaky. Now, you can read on some forums and people hate the Triumph fuel tap, this Bonneville one, for some reason. There's not an awful lot of love. That being said, I've not had a problem with either of the two that we've got, apart from this very slow weep on here. Didn't know it was there even. It's probably why Jen wants to swap tanks. Clever girl. But yeah, I mean, and this one is what, 18, almost 19 years old now. So I think that's pretty good going. If a couple of the O-rings or whatever inside are drying out or it's a bit gummed up, I think it serves some fairly good service. Anyway, let's get it off. They're not cheap to replace. I think they're like about 80 odd quid or something. You read on some of the forums, there's like the Pingle replacement ones. I'd rather not be spending 80 odd quid on a fuel tap. I paid less for the rear wheel with a brake disc, sprocket carrier and a tyre, actually, when you add it all up. So yeah, let's whip this off. I've never taken one of these ones apart. I had an old Daytona 900, one of the T3s. That's the only other bike I've had to do a fuel tap rebuild on. That was a vacuum one, and it had the whole diaphragm in here, and rebuilt that. I believe back then, I think it was 15 quid or something like that for a rebuild kit. Can't see many rebuild kits for these. I don't think there's many parts inside here. Triumph don't sell all of the parts separately. We'll have a close look when I take this off and get inside. It's a bit more of a simple setup. Looking at the pictures, I think there's just maybe a couple of O-rings. There's definitely some O-ring seals here because where I've had the tap off before. But yeah, and just for clarification, the slight weep, it's not from where the mating face against the tank. It's not coming through the dial front here. It was literally just here. So there's obviously some, I'm imagining there's some sort of O-ring or O-rings inside here, and then some sort of like valve situation that shuts it off as you turn, you know, either to reserve or on. But we'll have a look. It's on off now. There's still a little bit of fuel down the bottom, so I'm going to keep it upright, but I'm going to take the fuel tap off and then we'll get inside and have a little look and see what can be done. As I say, I can't find any specific fuel tap repair kits for these. Tell a lie, you can. I think the Tiger 900 and the Thunderbird, Sprint Manufacturing is the only place. For $7.95 you can buy. They supply there's the 2 gasket O-rings that are in here, and there was a separate O-ring inside there. They sell that as a kit. That's the only thing really that I can see you can get to replace for these. So, but we'll have a look. So yeah, this is probably not the most interesting, but you got your screw with a sort of sealing washer, 2 of those on there. And then carefully withdraw. There we go. Right, let's get that up there and take it apart. So you might be able to see here flakes of paint and bits of crap, just stuff that's been floating around in the bottom of the tank. Probably a bit of the paint and lining on the inside. That's what your fuel filters are for. So we've got this kind of spacer plate here. That's the first thing that can come off. So that's your main fuel feed, and that's your reserve. So if it drops, obviously you switch to reserve, and that'll. So looking at this, there's obviously something that opens an opening there for when your fuel's on, so it allows it to flow down there and out, and then when you hit reserve, that closes that one off, opens an opening somewhere around here, which allows that to flow the fuel through there, and then when you're on off, that should close both of those off. Something is getting through still when we're on off. But yeah, so there's our first gasket-y O-ring type thing. Carefully, don't want to mess up the filters. In fact, let's get this gasket off first. So it's not too bad a condition. You can see some old bits of the glazing from old fuel maybe in there, but it seems to be keeping everything in. There's no cracks. We'll see. What I'm kind of hoping is if there's some little O-rings inside. I've got an O-ring kit. I've just just a load of, I can't remember if they're Viton or nitrile O-rings, but they should do I've got a couple of boxes. Hopefully I've got some that are the right size and will fit. That's the reserve filter. damage that. That's no nicks, rips or tears. That one has got a little bit of a hinge in it. Might be as well, given that these are, I'm assuming these are the originals, for the sake of £7. Yeah, it's too little. Yeah, you can see that one's actually perished a little bit there around the edges, all the cracks. It might be as well just to replace. Right, so the actual, back to the fuel tap, so we might have had a hole there, but no, that's okay. So we've got a screw under here, which is kind of like, almost like acts like a grub screw. And I'm putting my thumb over here because I imagine there's a spring. Possibly, or I don't know what's going to fall out. Yeah, spring. Okay, so there's a tap. Spring. There's an O-ring in there. Is it in a groove or is it just sat in there? There's no actual groove for it to sit in. Looks like there's a bit of mankin stuff in there anyway. It's not split, but it does feel a little bit brittle. So we've got. So I'm guessing this bit in here is this blue bit. Is going to be. You can see that. In fact, that's what fits in there, and then obviously it turns it round, and you can see that one is slightly larger. That one is slightly larger than that one. There's a difference there, so that's quite good in that you can makes it easier on reassembly. That there's only really one way you can orientate things. All right, let's try and get that out. So, God, stinks that whole fuel. So yeah, you might be able to see. Let me just have a look round. So there's obviously two holes that line up with the reserve and the main fuel flow. Can you see them in there? There, and that one that side, and then you've got this which sits in there. You can see these openings then, so as you turn that opens either the reserve or the main, or shuts them both off. So there's not an awful lot of parts in there. This fitting here almost, I don't know how that, I'm not gonna, that I think is probably, it might even be brazed in there, I don't know that. I don't think I'm gonna try, and there's no need to take that out, I think. There's no leaking from around here, so if it ain't leaking, why disturb it? Don't even know if this bit comes out actually, but again, I'm not going to try and force anything. So I'm guessing that somehow some of the fuel, when it's on off, is obviously still leaking past what we've got inside, which is this arrangement, and that's all in there. So that's inside, and even when we're turned off, somehow it looks like the fuel's nipping round and getting through. So it might just be, there's nothing obviously damaged, but it might just be a case of just giving everything a real good clean up, replace the O-rings, and see what happens, which I think is all I can do. So toothbrush, some soapy water, maybe a bit WD-40, give all this a clean up, and then add some O-rings to the list. I did have a look through, and I've got another O-ring there. It's not exactly the same size, but it's a bit thicker. So, but as these two are, sorry, well, one of them is, it's a bit cracked. That's not going to pick up, I doubt. But yeah, I'm going to just order some of those. Last thing I want is to put it all back together and just get a weep out of there. That would be annoying. And sometimes if they've been on there for so long and they're fine, once you've disturbed them, then that's it. It's kind of done. And so there we go. This is Sprint Manufacturing, and it's triumphparts.co.uk, and this is the nearest thing I can find. I haven't been able to find it anywhere else, but for £7.95 that gives you these two replacement seals, and that bad boy, which is going to be that one, which is on the inside. But that's as much as I can find on a rebuild. Hopefully it's nothing to do with this being worn, because it doesn't look like you can get that separately, and there's not much else to replace on there really. So yeah, £7.95, and that is across the Thunderbird 900, Tiger 900 and Bonneville 800 and 865. So yeah, I'm going to order those, and hopefully that will solve the problem. And thus there endeth the video. So thanks for watching, take it easy, see you on the next one.